Permettre aux employés qui fournissent un appui aux travaux de la séance de se substituer en toute sécurité. We'll now go on to the first question. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Scheer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, the government has been telling Canadians for months now that they must not gather in large groups. Now, the government, of course, has to set the right example. So can the Deputy Prime Minister tell the House whether or not the government's advice as to public large gatherings has changed?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for that very important question from the Leader of the Official Opposition that I have agonized over myself personally quite a lot. I think that the Leader of the Official Opposition must be referring to the many...
Now go back to the Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Scheer.
Mr. Chair, the Deputy Prime Minister herself said that she did not participate in mass gatherings last week to respect appropriate physical distancing. She said, and I quote, "As a mother, I've been struggling very hard to say to my children that they can't see their friends and they can't be in groups." So setting an example on that front is also an important one for me. She clearly thinks it would have been wrong for her to attend large mass gatherings. Does she think it was okay for Justin Trudeau to do it?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Leader of the Official Opposition has inaccurately quoted the comments that I made last week, but those comments did sincerely reflect what I think is the debate or the struggle all of us have been having about two realities. One is the absolute imperative to honour peaceful protests and for Canadians...
Back to Mr. Scheer. Mr. Scheer.
It's a simple question, Mr. Chair. Canadians have been told that they cannot visit their loved ones. They can't attend funerals. Tragically, so many Canadians have had to say goodbye to relatives over Skype. Is the Deputy Prime Minister now saying that all those precautions no longer need to be followed and people can visit relatives who are in care homes or who are facing illness?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Let me be clear about something the Leader of the Opposition said in his previous question. I strongly support the action our Prime Minister took on Friday in joining the anti-Black racism protest. The fact that our Prime Minister was there sent an essential message to Canadians and the world. He was also wearing a mask, which is very important, and in my own comments last week...
Back to Mr. Scheer. Mr. Scheer.
It was sending a message, Mr. Speaker. It was sending a double standard message. On the one hand, this government has been telling small business owners that they have to watch their life savings disappear. They've been telling Canadians that they cannot visit their loved ones in hospital and have to say goodbye to relatives who are dying over Skype. Are all those precautions and public health advice now ended? In other words, is it okay for people to start gathering in large public gatherings, patronizing restaurants and visiting relatives?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think it is essential for us to honour the right of Canadians and indeed of people around the world to make their political views known by peacefully protesting. That is an essential element of democracy and of people fighting for equality.
Mr. Scheer.
No one is denying that Canadians have the right to protest, but what is at question is the Prime Minister's, Justin Trudeau, on the one hand, telling Canadians that they have to follow public health advice, and on the other hand, attending a large public gathering. Is the Deputy Prime Minister now saying that Canadians should pick and choose when they listen to public health advice?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in my comments last week and in the comments from our Chief Public Health Officer last week, clear advice was offered to Canadians who wanted to exercise their right to peaceful protest. The advice was to wear masks. The advice was to bring hand sanitizer. The advice was to be careful. That is very important. So is the...
Back to Mr. Scheer. Mr. Scheer.
Mr. Speaker, there have also been very clear messages as it relates to public advice. Quote, "I think it's extremely important that Canadians continue to behave as we have, largely in social distancing and staying home, in keeping ourselves, our loved ones, our families, our extended families, our seniors, our healthcare workers, and our essential workers safe from rapid spread of COVID-19. Do you know who said that? Justin Trudeau said that. And yet, on the weekend, he attended a large public gathering, flying in the face of his own advice. Now, also on the weekend, a local business here in Ottawa received an $880 ticket for providing takeout food to customers who then were seated on a patio, just mere blocks away from where thousands of people were gathering in close quarters with each other. Does the government think that that ticket to that business was fair?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to be extremely clear about our government's position, and I would like to invite the official opposition to be equally clear about its position. Now is a time in the world when all of us have to state our views. All of us have to be clear on whether we stand against anti-Black racism or not. To be silent is to be complicit. In attending that protest, in being visible for Canadians and the world, the Prime Minister sent an essential message to everyone in our country. I am